Majority Report with Sam Seder.
The destiny of America is always safer in the hands of the people than in the conference rooms of any elite.
Sam Seder.
They are unanimous in their hate for me, and I welcome their hatred.
We must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
The Majority Report with Sam Seder.
Ever get the feeling you've been cheated?
It is Wednesday, May 28th, 2025. My name is Sam Seder. This is the five-time award-winning Majority Report. We are broadcasting live steps from the industrially ravaged Gowanus Canal in the heartland of America, downtown Brooklyn, USA. On the program today, Luke Goldstein, reporter at The Lever, on the Genius Act. Then members of United Food and Commercial Workers Local 1445, representing 1,100 workers at UMass Medical Center in Worcester. Contract is up in a little more than a week. They're going to be picketing tomorrow. Also on the program today, Donald Trump supposedly mad at Vladimir Putin because Putin is making Trump's war-ending claims look absolutely stupid. Meanwhile, RFK Jr. launches a barely unspoken war on vaccines, won't allow government scientists to publish in peer-reviewed journals. Trump asked the Supreme Court to lift an injunction on deporting migrants to third-party countries. Meanwhile, Trump administration paused new student visa application interviews. And this, in the wake of Stephen Miller's quota system for immigrant arrests, the Trump regime now detaining high school kids, cancer-stricken toddlers, and of course, moms. New report, more than a dozen of Trump administration officials sold stocks in the run-up to Trump tariff announcements. Elon Musk fighting to distance himself from Doge disaster, comes out against the big, beautiful bill. And meanwhile, SpaceX Starship goes boom, creating more space waste and abuse. Trump loses another case brought by a targeted law firm. An internal FEMA memo states that the agency is at high risk of breaking its life-saving disaster relief capacity. All this and more on today's Majority Report. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for joining us. Emma Vigeland out today. Should know, not related to the basketball game last night. This was a planned, she was planned not to be in today. So
it's just fortuitous.
We have done a wellness check and she's okay. And just to be fair, there is, I think, a 4.75% chance based upon past precedent that the Knicks could pull it out.
Banking on that for the Timberwolves as well.
There you go. It is, of course, hump day, however, in this shortened week. We have a lot to get to. We're going to talk a little bit later in the program, probably in the fun half, about the Democrats' ability in the Senate now, and I mean now, to stop not only the big, beautiful bill that Donald Trump is proposing, or I should say passed the House, the reconciliation bill, but just about any activity in the Senate, if they want to. And this was a function of what the Republicans did the other day in stopping California from having a waiver from the EPA on its CAFE standards, because they wanted to essentially make every car in California, or every new car in California, an EV car starting in 2035. The Republicans broke something in the Senate that Democrats, if they wanted to, could take advantage of. We will talk about that more in a moment. But let's get to the Republicans attempting to justify their passing this bill in the House. Listener Spacco sent us this video of Representative Mike Flood, Republican from Nebraska. Now, Nebraska is one of those places where, there was a fairly tight Senate race past go around. And
Osborne way overperformed, especially as an independent candidate.
And there is burgeoning dissent there. I don't know if Mike Flood is in any jeopardy, but it's not like Nebraska is is its own country. It's indicative of a lot of problems that the Republicans are going to have around the country. Here's Mike Flood being asked by his constituents to justify different aspects of this reconciliation bill, which is going to ultimately kick anywhere from 8 to 14 million people off of Medicaid. It's going to cut $500 billion out of Medicare because of the sequestration as a function of this bill's not being remotely balanced. It is also going to kick millions off of SNAP. And we will talk about the specifics, or let's let Mike Flood talk about the specifics after he looks through his notes on the bill he voted for.
Didn't agree, but we would have gotten so much done if I could do that 5 times a day in people's living rooms. I only share that because this is what I do right now, because it's what I know how to do. But I got to figure out a way to put my arms around those people that I think just want those answers. I know. Okay, next question.
Next question is, I'm concerned about the SNAP benefits being cut and the age of depending being lowered from 11 to 7. Children should not be punished for being born into poverty.
Okay, pause it right there. I want to explain what that question is. The age cutoff that this questioner is asking about, this is just a constituent of Mike Flood's. The bill is going to expand a restriction as to who is not eligible for SNAP funds. And right now, current SNAP rules, most non-elderly, non-disabled adults without children in their homes cannot receive benefits for more than 3 months out of every 3 years unless they document that they're working at least 20 hours per week or prove they qualify for an exemption. Now, they're going to expand who this applies to. Now, it applies to people up to the age of 55. If you're over age 55, you are eligible to get SNAP benefits without documenting that you're working at least 20 hours per week, or that you're disabled, you have some other exemption. The other exemption to this rule was if you are a parent and you have a child under the age of 11. Well, they're dropping that down to a child under the age of 6. So if you are 7, you are 8, you are 9, you are 10, and your parent, for whatever reason, is not working, you go hungry. You go hungry. Here is, so that's just the question. And he's being asked, why did you change this? Why do you have to work until you're 64 as opposed to 56 to be eligible for SNAP benefits? Remember, as you get older, it's tougher to work. It's tougher to find work if you've lost work. There's wear and tear on your body. You may have a disability that doesn't actually reach the threshold of Social Security disability, but it's going to inhibit your ability to work. And then, of course, if you're 7 or 8 or 9 or 10, you don't really have control over what your parents do.
Okay, next question.
Next question is, I'm concerned about the SNAP benefits being cut and the age of depending being lowered from 11 to 7. Children should not be punished for being born into poverty.
Oh, go through my notes. I know this. Okay.
Okay.
Pause it. Now, I just want to be clear also, as this guy looks for his notes on Snap. Literally a teenager who spent 20 minutes reading about this bill would know that SNAP is the second largest pool of money that is being cut in this bill. And this guy has absolutely no idea what this woman who asked her a question is referencing.
Let me check my notes on the whether I took food out of people's mouths.
And he's going to go, and he's not even looking for notes on the bill. He's looking for what the talking points are in a generic sense, because you can tell he's not even addressing any of this stuff.
Poverty.
Snap. Let's see. Snap talking points. Okay, here we go.
Okay. I knew SNAP was going to be an issue, and it's something that I know the Lincoln Food Bank is here. SNAP during COVID was greatly expanded for good reason. We had a lot of people that couldn't work. We had a lot of different programs that were expanded, inflated, added to. We want to make sure that people that can work are working. And again, our SNAP error rate in Nebraska is nothing compared to the other states. Which means that states like Nebraska, under this bill, if enacted in its current form, are going to get a benefit by running a quality program, where states that continue to have an unacceptable error rate are going to see a continued reduction in funding. I think when the dust settles on the SNAP program, Nebraska will benefit from having a very well-run program. Now, the proof will be in the pudding, and I'm sure I will understand everything that's happening. I saw my friends from Lincoln Food Bank.
Okay, pause. I just wanted to be clear what this guy's answer was as to why you changed the restrictions on who is eligible for this. We have a low error rate here. In other words, everybody who's on SNAP right now is, not everybody, but whatever it is, the vast, overwhelming majority of people on SNAP in Nebraska qualify. He doesn't address the fact that they're changing the qualifications. He's implying that somehow Nebraska is going to benefit because other states have higher error rates. And then he's going to see, we got to see how it comes out. The proof will be in the pudding, is if this starves kids or not. And then, we're not going to go back in and do anything about it, but we'll know.
We're going to benefit so much that it doesn't matter that we just cut the benefit or lowered the age from 11 to 7.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if 55, 56, 57, 58, 59, 60, 61-year-olds, 62-year-olds, 63-year-olds, 64-year-olds. If you're not working 20 hours a week, we know you're just coasting into who is the 56-year-old? How many of the 56-year-olds in this country are like, I've lost my job, but I'm living large, and you know what? For those 3 months out of the year or 4 months out of the year that my income is below a certain threshold, I'm going to be able to get $200 a month for food. Maybe. I mean, he's saying there's very little fraud in the system right now as it stands.
There's a fraud by 9-year-olds?
And his only response is, well, we got to see how it works out. Go ahead.
Having a very well-run program. Now, the proof will be in the pudding, and I'm sure I will understand everything that's happening. I saw my friends from Lincoln Food Bank. They have some concerns as they came in here.
Sorry, I just want to get that one more time. The proof will be in the pudding, and I'm sure I'll understand everything that's happening.
We got to get that a drop. Yeah. I'm sure I'll understand everything that's happening after it happens.
Settles on the SNAP program, Nebraska will benefit from having a very well-run program. Now, the proof will be in the pudding, and I'm sure I will understand everything that's happening. I saw my friends from the Lincoln Food Bank. They have some concerns as they came in here tonight. I'm going to be finding out how this affects them because they're obviously on the front lines of food, people that have food insecurity. I will have to take that up.
Okay.
Pause it. I will have to take it up. You voted for the bill already. You voted for the bill already. Your friends over at the Lincoln Food Bank have already said, "Hey, dude, this is going to screw us." Now, he's implying, well, maybe I'll fix it when it comes back from the Senate. Go ahead.
Research, sir.
Next question is.
Okay, next question.
Is please explain to all sides that Medicaid and Social Security are not being cut and explain why the left keep up that myth.
Okay, pause it. So there's a myth that Social Security and Medicaid are going to be cut, according to this questioner. Now, this bill does not cut Social Security. This bill cuts Medicaid by any estimation, by anybody, by $900 billion. Now, in the final end, it may not, maybe it'll be a little bit less. But it cuts Medicaid in that amount. Now, Mike Johnson even agrees it cuts that, but he says it's all fraud and abuse. It's all Doge. It also cuts Medicare because it will be eligible for sequestration, cuts across the board. Watch how he addresses the cuts to Medicaid in this bill. And I will give you a spoiler alert. He talks about anything but.
And explain why the left keep up that myth.
Well, honestly, this is one of the concerns, the Social Security concern of the 8 women that I met with at the end of Columbus. Their chief concern was that the Social Security benefits were being cut. And the reality is, the Congressional Budget Act of 1974 specifically prohibits Congress from having anything to do to modify, change, reduce any benefit related to Social Security. So of all the concerns that some of you may have, your Social Security benefits being reduced are not one of them. However, you should know that in 2032, 2033, our Social Security Trust Fund will not be fully funded anymore. And there will be decisions to be made, which I hear people coming up with ideas. I think when you look at the Medicaid changes that we made, we did a very good job to avoid making Medicaid changes that affect patient care. And that is something that we will ultimately find out as we go forward. We hear more about it in the Senate. I'll have an opportunity to vote on it again.
There you go. There it
So
is. There's your Medicaid answer. It's not going to change patient care at all, except for it's going to have a lot less patients because millions upon millions of people are going to be booted off of Medicaid. And if a hospital is closed, can they provide worse patient care? I don't think so. I don't think they're providing any. So it's not going to change patient care. It's just going to be fewer patients and fewer places for them to get care. That's it. And then let me talk about Social Security for like the 90% of the answer. I mean, these guys are going out there and they have this is I don't know if it's a blood red district, but this is not a guy who is in any type of jeopardy of losing his seat to a Democrat. And this is his inability to answer these basic questions at a town hall.
You don't want the food bank people looming large being upset at you at your town halls, I don't think.
I mean, good luck to any Republican in anything less than like an R6 district. Republican in a R6 district, go do a town hall challenge is what I say. In a minute, we're going to be talking to Luke Goldstein. He is a reporter for the Lever, and he's written on the Genius Act, which it's going to be fun to see. What was the phrase that he used? We're we'll look and I'm sure we'll figure it out as to who's getting ripped off by that. First, couple words from our sponsors. This one's always an easy one for me. This episode is sponsored by Liquid IV. I don't even have to, I always have it right in front of me. I mean, not the bottle. It's not the bottle. It's the stuff inside it. You're going to have big plans this summer. You're going to be running around. You got to stay hydrated so you can get the most out of your body and live more during these warm summer months. Visit liquidiv.com. Maximize your summer plans with sugar-free hydration featuring the new Raspberry Lemonade Hydration Multiplier. Get 20% off your first order with code MajorityRep at checkout. How much is this? I don't know how much it is, how much water it is in there. But right in front of me as I speak. I've been drinking this stuff, I don't know, for half a dozen years. I'll drink a bottle or two during the show. And I feel the difference at the end of the day. But it's also great. It comes in little packets. You can take it on the plane. If you travel around with it, you put it in your backpack. If you're playing a game, it doesn't matter. True to fruit flavors that keep you hydrated. Find all of your favorite hydration multiplier flavors on their website. Acai berry, lemon lime, pina colada, or choose from their line of sugar-free flavors, which has been my go-to now. Raspberry lemonade, which is my fave. White peach, I also love. And rainbow sherbet. Break the mold. Own your own ritual. Just one stick plus 16 ounces of water hydrates better than water alone. It is powered by LIV Hydroscience, which is basically just a optimized ratio of electrolytes, essential vitamins, clinically tested nutrients that turn ordinary water into extraordinary hydration. 3 times the electrolytes of the leading sports drink, 8 essential vitamins and nutrients, always non-GMO, vegan, gluten-free, dairy-free, soy-free. Get ready for the summer with extraordinary hydration from Liquid IV. Get 20% off your first order of Liquid IV when you go to liquidiv.com. Use the code MajorityRep at checkout. That's 20% off your first order with code MajorityRep at liquidiv.com. My other big thing that I've been on for the past couple of years is to get rid of all single-use plastics in my home. I'm close, but the one thing that I have definitely done is I no longer have to carry big jugs of laundry detergent or dishwasher detergent home. How? Because of Blue Land. Do you realize that we are eating and drinking roughly a credit card's worth of plastic a week? Microplastics. The products we use every day are contaminating our water supply, generating hundreds of microplastics that we end up ingesting. Blue Land is on a mission to do something about it. Eliminate the use of single-use plastics in the products we reach for the most. Blue Land has clean ingredients. It is totally effective. It is affordable. It saves me a ton of space and super easy to use. They offer refillable cleaning products. I use 3 of their sprays. They come in tinted bottles that I just refill blue, pink, or red, and yellow. Blue for the windows, pink for the bathroom, and yellow is like a all-purpose. Then you get these tablets. They also are color-coded. You pop one tablet in, you fill it full of water, or you do the water first, then you put the tablet in, and then boom, you're done. And the tablet, the replacements on these tablets cost like, I don't know, $2.50, not even. So you save a ton of money. If you buy in bulk or you buy a subscription, you save even more. Blue Land products are independently tested to perform alongside major brands and are free from dyes, bleach, and harsh chemicals. They got hand soap, they got cleaning sprays, they got toilet bowl cleaner, laundry tablets, dishwasher tablets. Blue Land trusted in over 1 million homes, including mine. Blue Land has a special offer for listeners right now. Get 15% off your first order by going to blueland.com/majority. You don't want to miss this. Blueland.com/majority, 15% off. That's blueland.com/majority. Get 15% off. Honestly, great cleaning products. Doesn't take up a lot of space in your cupboard. Save money. You save, I don't know if you're going to save the planet, but you're going to have less plastics, without a doubt. We'll put the links in the YouTube and podcast descriptions. All right, quick break. And Luke Goldstein, right back after this. We are back. Sam Seder on the Majority Report. Emma Vigeland out today with nothing to do with the Knicks' loss. Joining us now, Luke Goldstein, reporter at The Lever. His latest piece is on the Genius Act that just passed. They voted for cloture in the Senate a week from yesterday or today.
I think it was today.
Welcome back to the thanks. Welcome back to the show. Walk us through what the Genius Act is, and then we'll talk about the Democrats who voted for it and why. But walk us through what the Genius Act is.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for having me back on. So there's a few different storylines that are all converging here. None of them are good, unfortunately. So there's crypto and then also the big tech platforms. It's kind of all the same story, though. They have been trying to expand deeper into the financial and banking system, and they've basically, kind of hit a bunch of regulatory obstacles along the way. So, they're now turning to Congress to more or less, kind of clear the field for them here, and kind of sort out a lot of the kind of legal difficulties, and then basically the financial risk in the end is going to be sort of put on all of us. So on the crypto side, the industry's biggest problem right now is that they're sort of struggling to get mass adoption of their technology. The plebs are just like not understanding the brilliance. And the Trump administration has gotten rid of all of these kind of enforcement actions from the Biden admin. Trump admin's pumping up crypto as much as they can, the strategic reserve, Trump's own meme coin and such. And the kind of final plank here is to have Congress set up what is essentially a very light touch regulatory framework, less regulatory than it's just a legal framework, to sort of give major investors more confidence that they can start getting into this market, recommend their clients get into crypto. It's a very specific kind of cryptocurrency called stablecoin. And all that means really is it's a little bit more like a gateway drug to crypto. It's a crypto token that is pegged specifically to a dollar value, or could be other currencies, but in this case, obviously the dollar, to some equivalent value. Now, crucially, if you're issuing stable coins, a stable coin has to be redeemable to a dollar, but it's not like those institutions necessarily hold the cash on hand to be able to, pay out an equivalent value in stable coin. They just have to hold a certain amount of assets that they can then liquidate to redeem those stable coins. And what's going on the back end with all those assets is where you have, kind of financial experts that are kind of raising a lot of sort of red flags about what may be going on there.
Okay. All right. I want to put a pin in that, the sort of the assets that back these so-called stable coins. How is like, okay, right now we have Venmo, right? Like I'm not wiring money, literally. I'm wiring I'm subtracting from my bank account and I'm simply adding it to somebody else's bank account. Venmo does that. PayPal does that. Apple Pay does that. Cash App does that. So how is, like, when we're talking about like what this legislation does, I know part of it is it basically sort of puts an umbrella around these things and say, okay, you're not going to be subject to the regulations that we have on if a bank did this in some way. So it's almost like edifying a deregulatory structure.
Yeah.
Saying we're going to inoculate you from, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. We're going to inoculate you from bank regulators. Gary Gensler wanted to basically subsume a lot of this stuff right into the existing banking regulations because it's doing the same thing, ostensibly. Where does like the stable coin come in? How is that different than just like, I'm sending you $1 through Venmo?
Yeah, it's an important question. It's really not that different. It's just a different kind of digital asset technology. I mean, the industry people say it's better for, the kind of efficiency and speed of transactions. But you're right. It's more or less the same. You also do have to still, at least as it currently stands, you have to have a bank deposit that's connected for you to be able to get set up for these, for stable coins. But the crucial thing that you just touched on is that what this legislation is really about is that stablecoins will not be regulated as securities by the Securities and Exchange Commission or as commodities by a separate agency, the CFTC. It's basically just going to be regulated sort of by the Treasury. There's basic, general compliance stuff like anti-money laundering, some fraud stuff. But this is even more, light touch than the whole world of shadow banking, which is even a lower regulatory threshold than, the sort of major banks. This is what the crypto industry has really, kind of been pushing for a number of years and been, held up. Now, the whole other part of what this bill is going to do is that you have to get issued you have to get a license to issue stable coins. And you don't even have to be registered as a financial institution to do that. You can be a non-banking institution, such as one of the major tech platforms. And this has been a long sought after goal by the tech industry. So all of the major companies, Amazon, Meta, Apple, and Google, they all have their own payment services. Like you mentioned earlier, PayPal, they kind of have their own versions of this. They're payment networks. They just manage various transactions between their users. Apple Pay, is probably the most advanced here. They have a giant, user base that relies on that service. But Meta has probably been the most ambitious in terms of the kind of project and plan that they have in place. Now, from a just very basic level, you can understand why they want to get into payment services. It's an extremely lucrative industry. There's not a lot of overhead costs, and you're basically
you don't have
just
to have an
transacting.
you don't have an inventory. You just
Right.
it's just fees on
Fees. It's all
everything that
transac-
happens. That's it. It's all just paying
all-
rent essentially to me being able
Yep.
to hand over $1 to my daughter or my son or whoever it is, and them saying like, "Well, thank you for handing it over. We just take a cut."
Yeah, for all of our big overhead costs that we have on the back end. Yeah. So no, it's just a fee collection business. And that's what they're doing currently. Now, if we go back a couple years ago, Meta put out an even kind of bigger proposal, which was we're going to actually get into our own cryptocurrency business. This is 2019. They said, we want to launch Libra, our own internal currency. And the blowback, not just from the public, from actual government regulators to that idea was really so, kind of tremendous that they ended up not even launching it. They had to kind of walk it back at the last minute. Like, even Jerome Powell at the time said, we don't know about this. You're a giant platform. You're not a bank. Okay. There's no FDIC insurance for this. We don't really know how this is going to work. Also, interestingly, Trump actually at the time raised his own concerns. Him and, Mark Zuckerberg over the years have obviously had their own
Right. It's a
feud.
scam unless
right.
I can make money off it, and then it's not.
Right. He was anti-Bitcoin back then, and then he learned that it was like a great huckster.
Oh wait,
and,
I can make my own Bitcoin. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, so
exactly.
is the difference between is the reason why they want to do stable coins? I'm trying to figure out, like, conceptually, I don't even like fully understand this. It is equivalent to $1. It's pegged to $1. So I have like a Metacoin or Libra, and it's worth $1. Although theoretically it could be like, oh, a Libra coin is worth $2. So, you could have a half a Libra coin, it's worth $1. And then I have an Apple coin. And then I have an X coin.
Mm-hmm.
Can I, at one point I imagine to go from an X coin, because my daughter only accepts Libra coins when she needs money, to buy a sandwich. But I only have X coins. That just generates another fee, right? I mean, this is all to just sort of like create their own universes where if the money goes outside of that unit and they're charging, presumably they're charging, I go buy a pair of sneakers with my X coin, they're going to charge the sneaker shop some type of fee. So they want it all to happen within their universe. And if you exit their universe and change your X coins into dollars, God forbid, or Apple coins, they get another fee. It's just they're just creating, essentially putting us all on a one train track system, and then all of a sudden they can charge you for everything because you can't leave it.
Yeah. So the super app is really the model here. So yeah, the fees are practically speaking where they're going to be bringing in the revenue, but the model here really is, it's kind of like the super apps WeChat in China, where you never have to leave the app. You stay on the platform as long as possible. You do all your social networking. You can go shop and do e-commerce, and you don't even have to leave. Your bank account is there as well. The platform is your bank, and they get to have a total God's eye view into all financial transactions that are taking place on that platform. They have financial data. They know how to kind of create incentives and inducements to buy their products and such. At a large scale, this is really something we've never seen before. We actually have had laws in place for hundreds of years that, say if you're a commercial business, you're not a bank. If you're a bank, you're not doing the selling and manufacturing of goods. You're regulated totally separately, and for obvious reasons. Right? Like a financial institution as the kind of bedrock of our whole economy, has all kinds of volatility, as we saw in the 2008 financial collapse. We've had this separation in place for a very good reason, and the Genius Act really strikes at the heart of this by creating this whole new carve out and different regulatory setup that doesn't really distinguish between if you're primarily a banking institution or just, you know, a regular company.
So I understand why the big tech companies want this, and the crypto people want it because it is just a way to get you into this notion of tokenized currency. Is that basically it? And this is ostensibly going to, and then suddenly, like, we're also, you can have our Apple coin, but you could also have our I don't know, Granny Smith coin, which is actually more of a crypto thing. And you can use your Apple coin to buy your Granny Smith coin. And it's all part of our features at our, bank, essentially.
Right. I mean, they're kind of, I spoke to some people for this story who are former lawyers and enforcers at the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau that was scrutinizing this activity actually very closely. And the way one of them put it to me was, it's not going to happen tomorrow, right, if this bill passes, but, down the line, okay, these tech companies basically turn into their own kinds of central banks. I mean, they're operating their own currencies. Those currencies can be speculated on by outside investors, the same way that people, measure the asset value of Meta's stock or Apple stock, right? So then there's a value outside of the platform itself. And then platforms like Meta are doing their own monetary policy, essentially. I mean, they're making decisions about how much money supply of Zuckbucks or Metacoin, go into the system. And that's I think for a lot of reasons, that would be a pretty terrifying scenario. Then you have, rival
can they
sovereignties
unpeg it?
Between the Fed.
Can they unpeg it from the dollar?
Well, I don't think based on the legal framework that's set up right now with the Genius Act. But again, I mean, the connection between a dollar and one stablecoin, I think, is a little bit hazier than some people make it out to be, as we've talked before. It's not necessarily one treasury note, okay? It's not necessarily that you have the cash on hand. It can be this whole range of various assets that just have to be, the institution has to be able to liquidate to redeem a dollar if there's a bank run or someone pulls out their deposit. But that whole process does not have a lot of oversight based on the framework laid out in the Genius Act.
And then there's that question of, like, what are the assets that actually back this? They have this whole monetary system within this world where I could just buy my food with Apple coin. I could buy my books. I could buy my pants and maybe I could even buy my car ultimately with Apple coin. And then all of a sudden merchants are taking this, or I'm taking it for membership for the majority report. And then all of a sudden it's like somebody finds out there's nothing behind this. And I mean, the value of our money, just to remind people, the American dollar, there's nothing behind it except for the fact that it is the only thing the U.S. government will accept for taxes. And you have to pay your taxes, and therefore it has value, because if you do not pay your taxes, you could go to jail. And so our money has value in that way, because it is the exclusive mechanism in which you can pay your taxes. But when we're in this world, that could the bottom just could fall out.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's totally right. And, again, as the kind of whole premise here, Meta is not a bank. Like, they don't have the same capital requirements that major banks do. Okay. So that's the other major risk that regulators are worried about. And again, as I said, this was even Jerome Powell back in 2019 who raised these concerns when Meta just entertained the idea of doing a Libra coin. Fast forward to today, as the Genius Act is making its way through Congress, these reports come out that Meta has once again started putting out sort of the feelers to do a partnership for their own, stable coin. I don't think it's, really a coincidence, right, that that's being entertained at the same time as this, bill is now, kind of imminently set to pass that would allow them to do just that. I mean, I think this has clearly been part of Zuckerberg's long-term ambitions for the platform.
And it was 12 Democrats who essentially voted for cloture in lieu of basically what would have been functionally a filibuster if they had not. And is there have you been able to find any consistent thing across these 12 Democrats that would correlate to this vote? Is there any, are they all people who have they're not, these are not people who have spent their years regulating banking and have come up with theories about why we can make banking more efficient. What is the common thread between these 12 Democrats?
They're believers, man. They just love the promise of of the meme coin, the almighty. They're just
thinking of the abundance that we're all going to have, or is there some other indication? Could we put a number on how enthusiastic these people are?
Yeah, I think you could put it at about 130 million US dollars, ostensibly, which is how much the crypto industry spent overall in the 2024 elections. Obviously, that was to both sides. That wasn't just to Republicans. The PACs that were affiliated with crypto. One was specifically for Republicans. One was for Democrats. Protect Progress was that one. I think it was about 33 million that they spent on the primaries and general elections. It's all under the umbrella of Fair Shake, the Fair Shake PAC, which was the big spending organization. And they funneled millions of dollars into frontline Democratic Senate races. Ruben Gallego and Elisa Slotkin were two of the main ones, and they've $10 million
each. $10 million each, and then they also took out Sherrod Brown with about $30 million worth of crypto spending against him. And what was he on the banking committee?
That's
weird.
Right. Yeah,
it's weird.
He was. He was the guy. He was the guy holding up this bill, similar versions of it from passing. Before, and I don't know, he had these weird hangups about this guy Sam Bankman-Fried who defrauded a bunch of investors and is now in prison, but no one seems to really remember him anymore. And they knocked off Sherrod Brown. You still have obviously some Democrats like Elizabeth Warren who are really trying to at least throw sand in the gears of this, but the
reporting was that she got into literally a screaming match with Kristen Gillibrand, who has been the champion of this bill,
co-sponsor of the bill, actually. Yeah. So I mean, the backstory here a little bit at least is that all of these the kind of crypto ally, more centrist Democrats were totally on board with this, and I mean, all the Trump corruption stuff, I do think actually, caused some difficulties for them. It made it harder for them to co-sign onto this deregulatory piece of legislation. So an initial vote on cloture for the Genius Act actually wasn't successful. And, a group of these Democrats said, we have serious concerns. And it wasn't clear at the time about whether that was them backing away completely from the legislation or just trying to use this as some bargaining position to get some concessions. And Republicans come to the table and they add these, sort of cosmetic changes. There's some very minor guardrails against the things that we're considering. But if you look at the Senate Banking Committee's analysis, this is the Democratic staffers, of course, they say that they're basically toothless, they're unenforceable. Tech companies, for example, can just get a waiver essentially from Trump if they want to get into issuing their own stable coins. And that's only for if you're a public company, like, a Meta or an Apple. If you're a private company like X, that doesn't even apply to you, even the kind of most basic compliance. Jeez. Yeah. So there's an argument to be made that this new version, there's an argument to be made it's actually it's not just not any better. It may actually be worse. It includes this new small provision that would strip away the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau's authority to oversee any of these, stablecoin situations. Yeah.
It's insane. Well, I will tell you two things. One is Republicans just showed us that we can go back in time at any time and use the Congressional Review Act on any waivers that are given by the executive. So I look forward to during President Ocasio-Cortez's presidency, go back that the Senate and the House will go back on that. But in the meantime, I also want to announce the Majority Report's stablecoin that is going to that we're going to be working on. But Luke, we're going to link to your piece that is both in the Lever and in Jacobin. Thanks so much for walking us through this. It's worth it for people to call their senators, but the real vote happened last week in terms of that cloture. And now the Republicans have the ability to just pass it with a simple majority, which I'm sure a couple of those people who voted for cloture are going to put their hands off so they can pretend like they weren't involved in it. Luke, thanks so much for your time today. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks so much for having me.
Okay, we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to be talking to who, Russ? Well, Steve LaJoy, and he is a member of the United Food and Commercial Worker Local 1445. Yeah, I think he's got some. Okay, we'll be right back after this. We are back. Sam Seder on the Majority Report. Emma Vigeland out today. Again, not a function of the Knicks' loss, just a coincidence for her. Want to welcome to the program Josh Zemansky. He is a member of the United Food and Commercial Workers Local 1445 and part of the bargaining committee. And you got more members of the bargaining committee right now. Yep. Josh, give us a sense of how many workers you guys represent, and who you guys are attempting to bargain with.
Okay, so we are UFCW Local 1445. We represent 1,100 members here at multiple campuses at UMass Memorial Health.
And that's in Worcester. Full disclosure.
Yep.
Both my sisters were born at one of those hospitals.
Awesome.
In Worcester. And so, okay, so you guys, your contract is coming up in a week or so. What's been going on?
So, Sam, first off, thanks for having us. Secondly, this is about respect for frontline workers more than anything else. We're talking about the people that clean the rooms. We're talking about the folks that deliver the food. We're talking about folks that cook the food. We're talking about technicians, such as surgical technicians. Myself, I work in endoscopy. So these are absolute 100% frontline folks that do, for better or for worse, wording here, the dirty work. We are in the trenches. We are not suit and tie folks. We are boots people. We are scrubs people. We have about 50 titles within the union. We go all the way from EBS, which is housekeeping services, all the way up into lab techs. We cover a lot of ground within UMass Memorial Health. We are at 3 campuses and some satellite areas as well. And the one thing that all 1,100 of us have in common is we work hard. And we want to continue to work hard, but we also want to continue to work hard on a fair contract. The organization in general, is money conscious. With the changing landscape politically, it's made a monster impact within these hospitals. And, we get that, but also we are seeking fairness more than anything else. It's a tough landscape, but this committee that you see behind you, and there's some others, are busting their you-know-whats to do everything that we can to make it happen.
So now, UMass Medical Center, I mean, and we're talking multiple, I know multiple hospitals, having grown up in Worcester, I know the Memorial Hospital, and then the medical center that's out down, I think, Shrewsbury Street, Route 9. And it has grown exponentially in the years. And they have, you've got people who've won Nobel Prizes, I believe, in the past couple of years, or maybe the past decade. And so the growth has been exponential. And I imagine it's really more of a question of can everybody participate in the benefits that come with that growth?
Yeah, that's the thing. Benefits are key. UMass Memorial is the largest employer in central Massachusetts. And right now, in today's state, we get excellent benefits when it comes to the health insurance. That is a key perk, if you will. That's why folks want to come and work at UMass Memorial Health. The benefit, the health benefit in particular, is something that is, I hate to use the word, Stan, but sacred. I've worked at, I work at the university campus, but I also worked at Marlborough Hospital. And when I first started there, I couldn't believe, what that benefit plan, included. It was pretty neat to say to my wife, hey, we don't have a deductible on services. It was pretty cool to, have a child and not see an itemized bill for this, that, and the other. You know what I mean? So that perk right there is a major, major recruiting you keep using the same word perk here, but it is the main reason why more than half of our folks in our unit work for UMass.
And so what is happening in terms of these negotiations right now? Why is it so difficult to get to a contract? Because I also would imagine that in terms of the community, having you guys get these perks from one of the biggest employers, if not the biggest employer in Central Mass, elevates people who are not in a union, people who are not in that industry, but across the board. What's going on with the negotiations? Are they looking to make cuts now too?
Well, I don't want to say cuts. What I want to say is they want to streamline things a little bit. When it comes, I'll kind of reverse myself. When it comes to like the health insurance, for instance, there's a union plan, which me and my folks are on right now. And then there's a non-union plan that, there is a small section of workers that are non-union, but also some management. They wanted to move us to that plan, and it's salary based about how, I don't really understand a lot about health insurance, but the breakdown and the payment is all based on what you make. And it could be quite devastating to, the 800 or so that get that plan within our unit, to lose that. It would be, some folks, and I have a close coworker who recently had a, devastating diagnosis, nothing, life-threatening, but I'll say life-changing. And that particular person she has to get medicine infusions a couple times a year. And that would go from costing $0 out of her pocket to possibly thousands of dollars. And that's inside. She accesses the medical services where she works. So it's sort of like, it's not, that saying to rob Peter to pay Paul. Well, it doesn't exist, right, if that makes sense. It's robbing Peter to pay yourself. You know what I mean? It just blew our mind, Sam. And I don't know the history behind all of that, but I've worked for UMass Memorial Health for 8 years, and we've never heard of any change ever. This is the first time. So, your question is really our question, if I can bring it back to that. You know what I mean? We haven't received any, the question why, we've never got that answer back. And then to answer your other question, a lot of what's happening here is all stalling us. We are motivated to get the contract done. We are motivated to get what we need to help our families. I have a member that works in the university OR right now, and she, even with her salary, accesses a local food bank in her community. Now, there's other issues too that are very important to us, such as temporary workers and travelers taking preferred hours from members. There's a traveler, and I'm using specific examples because I'm thinking that your listeners and viewers would want to know some specific examples. Yeah. So we have, in that very same OR, we have, there's lots of different shifts, but one of the preferred shifts is like 6:30 to 3 or 6 to 2:30. there's a traveler in that shift right now, and I have a member that wants that shift badly. So there's that. Other things is the way that folks are slotted into pay. It's like inequities. I always, when I'm talking about this stuff with rank and file members out in the hospitals, I'm telling them that, and I might be jumbling up some numbers here, but the message remains the same. There's a housekeeper at our Hanneman campus, and she may, at this point in time, she may probably have 25 years in. That's a loyal and great employee right there. That's what you want, right? So that particular member today makes, give or take, $20 an hour, give or take. I don't know exact. But the folks that they're bringing in today make the same. So riddle me this, Sam. How is that fair? From the 20-year member to the one-day member. There should be some separation there. Some, I don't want to put any terms on it, but it's sort of like investing in us. We're loyal to the hospital. Getting back to my respect point, we want that to come back to us. Show me, show my committee, show the 1,100 members that you want to invest in us. That is such a big deal to us.
So what? So Josh, give me a sense here. What can folks listening, particularly those in the Massachusetts area, Central Mass, do at this point to help you guys out?
Join us. We're going to be
picketing tomorrow. Is that right? Okay.
We're picketing now. We're informationally picketing now on the university campus and the Memorial campus. You can come out there, hold a sign with us, bring your family, bring your kid, bring your dog. We're there 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. every day, including the weekends. We are 100% serious about getting this right so that folks like the people you see behind me and the 1,100 other people can provide for their families without going to food banks, without taking second jobs, and without having side hustles. That's what we want.
And can people call? Is it something that would be helpful to you guys if people called or wrote the hospital at all? Or if people can get out there and picket with you and hold a sign, that would be great. But is it helpful for people to call or no?
You bet, Sam. And we got the power. I mean, and those folks have the power of the internet behind them. Making comments on Facebook, on the hospital's Facebook page. The UFCW 1445 has a strong presence on Facebook. Make some comments there. One thing that is also very powerful, and this doesn't happen a lot anymore, but the written word, a written letter to the hospital has impact. Any little piece that any folks can offer us is extremely valuable, whether it be 5 minutes, 5 hours, 5 days, any support that we can get from local folks, otherwise other unions, please, that we can't we can't ask enough. We need all the help we can get here. We're very strong, but we also need outside folks, and having the outside voice from community members, again, is very powerful. One experience I had at Marlborough Hospital, and this still happens down there, a lot of folks from the communities actually physically write letters and send them in, things like that. And it's so like we kind of think that that's old fashioned these days, but any little piece helps,
When people write a letter, I think there's probably an algorithm that they have that it represents more people than even going online is my suspicion.
Yep.
Well, we'll put a link to your Facebook page at majority.fm and in the podcast and YouTube description.
Amazing.
Sam,
And Josh, Steve, yeah, I was just going to ask if there's anything you want to add.
Yeah, real quick, I just want to say that, we've got some big issues on the table. The hospital is trying to, trying to put restrictions and limitations on leave language. They're trying to broaden their management rights so they don't have to bargain with the union when they want to make changes to technology and artificial intelligence. There's some big issues on the table. In addition to that, right now, the amount of money that they've put on the table, this contract, for the entire length of the contract, right now, the money on the table for the entire length of the contract is less than they got on year one the last time. It's significant. These are people, we have people that are, we've had workers, I believe there's one now, that are living in their cars. And they're coming to work and working at a hospital, and yet they can't afford their rent. We have workers that, have been here for 15, 18 years that are making, $2 above minimum wage, which is a disgrace working for a hospital. So yes, we want to protect our health insurance. Our benefits are very important to us, but there are big issues on the table that are much larger than just that. We have, wage inequities, that they hire people at rates of pay higher than the people that are training those people coming in that have been here for 20 years.
The people training them are making lower. Does that make sense, Sam? You know what I'm saying? Does that make sense to you?
Not to me.
No. Now, I wanted to touch base real quick, and I know you got a time limit here, Sam, so I want to try to keep it quick, but I want to touch base a little bit on those temps, travelers, and a little bit on per diems. Now, we do have some per diems.
Will you explain to people, because this is a phenomenon that particularly got more dramatic after COVID, because there were shortages for hospital workers around the country, and so a lot of people decided to just basically become contract hires in a way where they would come in on an ad hoc basis. So that's what you're talking about when you talk about traveling, right? And whatnot.
Correct. So what happens is the hospital doesn't want to pay people what the market is. They're not marketable. So they're having trouble recruiting and retaining staff. That's one of the problems that we have here at UMass is with recruitment and retention, because they've dropped way below the market. And so what happens is now they have these scheduling gaps. So they, back with COVID, as you put it, they got this really large pool of traveling workers that they can bring in and they can use to plug in. And it gives them a lot of flexibility with scheduling. And it allows them to be able to underscore all the hardworking people that are already the longevity of this company, of this hospital, the people that have already invested their time and dedicated themselves to this community. And it allows them to continue to undercut them and not give them the marketable rates that they deserve. So those travelers, our current language is that they're only supposed to be used to backfill. They're only supposed to be used to fill in for like an open position that's being actively recruited, but they're plugging them in all over the place. So they're taking all the overtime and the extra hours off the table. More importantly, the extra hours that people would rely on to feed their families, they're taking that off the table and giving all those hours to the travelers who are under contract for big money. I'll put it in the perspective this way. We have workers in one job title, our surgical technologists, that make between $30 and roughly $40, $45 an hour in that pay range, depending on years of service, how long they've been here in their raises. So we have people that have been here 50 years that are making about $40, $45 an hour. And they're losing extra hours to travelers that are being paid $110 an hour.
And so from management's perspective, the idea of having these sort of like basically temp hires, that's basically what they are, is that they have a lot more flexibility. They don't have a long-term commitment. They don't have to provide them the same benefits. And they also don't strengthen the workers because they know these people are transient on some level, and they're not going to stay in the city, build routes, and build any labor power. That's fundamentally what they're trying to do, is undercut the power of organized workers there.
Yeah, and that just put it really, really well. So, the benefits on that is a big part because they don't pay the travelers any benefits. So that's how they're able to offset that. And they're doing it at the cost of our members. I mean, when you talk about
and then it's a
members,
slow race to the bottom, isn't it? Because once they use, I mean, it's sort of like what Starbucks used to do, where they would come in and they would put 4 coffee shops on a corner. They would starve off the local coffee shop. Then they would close up 3 of those, and then they had the entire market to themselves. That's basically what they're doing in terms of workers, essentially.
right, Sam? Let me tell you, on a related basis, is we have what's called a per diem. Per diems, that's a non-benefited position where they don't have a set schedule. And so it used to be that the per diems were used to backfill, because they had no set schedule. They could plug them into a hole here, plug them into a hole there. What the hospital has done is they've gotten to the point where they're using these per diems as like 40-hour staff people. So they got a per diem that has no budgeted schedule. They're not getting any benefits, none, but they're plugging them in 40, 45, 50 hours a week so they don't have to give them insurance. And what that's doing is that's taking all the extra hours off the table for the existing staff, including part-time staff that rely on that to feed their families. And I just want to put that into perspective. We have one job title. If you look behind me over here to my right, you see one of our committee members. This is Maria, and she works in food services. And in her particular department, they have one job title, what's called a room service attendant, which is the people that bring the food up to the floors, up to the patients. And in a department that we have about 96, 98 thereabout members in that one job title, we have 58 per diems that are non-benefited, eating up all their extra hours and eating up their overtime. And that's disgusting. The fact that the hospital can do this and feel good about themselves, knowing that they're literally pushing people to the welfare line, they're actually putting people onto welfare because they don't want to give them the benefits they deserve. That's just disgusting.
Well, we will put a link to the UFCW Local 1445 Facebook page and others, and maybe we can also get a link that people can send an email to the UMass and let them know that people are watching. And at a time, I know in the Worcester area, rent housing has gone up precipitously in the past 10 years or so. And, everybody's dealing with, general inflation these days in particular. But it really does feel like this is part of a long-term race to the bottom that the hospital really shouldn't be part of. Anything else you guys need to say before we go?
Sam, I want to thank you for that, but I also want to just ask you to put out to your listeners, to the people viewing this podcast, that just them coming down and spending a few minutes down here, just stopping in and letting our workers that are out there on the line, letting them know that they support them, that they back them, that is huge. And I want to add to Josh's point before about writing letters. They can also contact the Telegram, the Worcester Telegram, and do like letters to the editor. I know in today's digital world they're not the same, but they can contact the Telegram and really put a little pressure on them to put a couple articles in their media and reach out to the hospital that way. Any support that we can get is huge. And right now, we absolutely need everything we can get to help these guys, cross this hurdle. We're only, the union's trying to do what's best for our workers, for our members. And, the hospital is really, to paraphrase Josh from before, it's about respect. And they're not getting any respect right now. But it's also about value. And our workers don't feel valued by this organization at all. With that, I'm gonna relinquish this back to my committee. Thanks, Sam.
All right. Well, thank you, Steve, and Josh. Thank you, and all of you back there. Thanks, and good luck. And hopefully, we'll have some people come down there. Maybe bring a pizza too, or two for folks, and send some letters in that area. I know we have a decent amount of listeners in and around Worcester. I certainly hope so. But I appreciate it, guys, and good luck. And we'll follow along on what's going on.
Sam, thank you. We're grateful. We're grateful for the opportunity to speak to you. So thank you.
All right. So long, guys. All right, folks. We will put links to the UFCW Local 1445. I mean, understand the dynamic that's going on there is one that's playing out all across the country. And not just in hospitals. I mean, the idea of essentially trying to, bring in temporary workers, which is essentially what these traveling nurses, and hospital personnel are. You bring in people who are transient. You will pay them higher wages, but not give them any long-term benefits. It undercuts the strength of local workers. Maybe you can break the union. Maybe you slowly get less and less people on the union. Maybe you can get them to have less benefits. And over time, you don't have to pay those traveling workers as much anymore. And that's the way you slowly press down on workers' power, workers' earning, workers' benefits, all of that. And that's what's going on there. Make no mistake about it. That is what is going on there. And that is a dynamic we see across the board. So if you're in the neighborhood, even remotely, head down there. But you know what we'll do too? Anybody who shows up there with a pizza, send us a picture of you there at majorityreporters@gmail.com.
Free membership?
Free membership. We'll send a t-shirt. Send a t-shirt. And we're not going to do it for every pizza box you bring. Each trip we'll get you a t-shirt.
Take 6 different pictures after buying 6 pizzas.
Exactly. Very close-up pictures.
Waste, fraud, and abuse.
All you see is just cheese. And then a pepperoni. And then, no, you got to pull back. And
don't do it by the slice. It's waste, fraud, and abuse.
But put in majorityreporters@gmail.com and put in UMass Picket. UMass Picket. And we will hook you up. Honestly, if I spent another probably half an hour talking to those guys, it would take me a week to get rid of my accent.
Relapse?
I mean, total. I felt it happening already. When I was talking to him, I already felt it happening. Folks, it's your support that makes this show possible. You can become a member at jointhemajority.com. If you'd rather a free membership than a t-shirt, we could do that too. Your choice. Pick them. It's your support that keeps this show going. You can become a member at jointhemajority.com. Also, don't forget Just Coffee. Fair trade coffee. It's a co-op. It's in Madison, Wisconsin. They are the oldest sponsor of this program. Even predate this program. Back in the Break Room Live days. I've been working with them for almost 18 years. Coffee's great. You can get the Majority Report blend. You can get the WTF blend, but you can also get a bunch of other blends and you get single origin. But the thing about the Just Coffee that is great, and we have had many coffee companies come to us over the years, wanting us to sponsor them, and got offered at one point, even branding our own coffee. The reason why we've stuck with Just Coffee is because A, they're a co-op, or maybe B, they're a co-op, but A, they started their coffee business to support farms in places like Chiapas and ultimately on the African continent to support the farmers. And they work with their farmers. If there's bad weather one year, or the crop is not as good, they work with them and figure it out. and they, fair trade, exactly what, you can follow along and see what like the batch has been through and stuff like that. So justcoffee.coop, use the coupon code majority, get 10% off. Matt, Left Reckoning.
Had a big finale to Matt May over at Left Reckoning, where I was doing Left Reckoning because David was finishing up his book on populism in the South.
Do you do that every year, Matt May?
No, just the years that David is finishing up a book. And but it had a really huge banger of a show with Representative Khanna from California. We talked about Doge and Gaza and abundance and stuff like that, and also the Truman Committee. He apparently, like me, is a fan of Harry Truman going after contractors during World War II and making it political. So that would have been the real Department of Governmental Efficiency, instead of letting a contractor that probably scams the government go lie about the government for months. So we talked about that. Also, a really great conversation with Straighteraid, who is the young lady who was on the Whatever podcast, and I believe the Saucecast on Valuetainment, asking Dave Rubin why he won't debate you, Sam. So we talked about the sort of process of that, and her also challenging Destiny in an event that sort of brought her to people's attention, and the different sort of streamers out there, and the weird brave new world of online media. So check that out. Great show last night. Patreon.com/Left Reckoning. I believe we'll have a JFK update with Jefferson Morley this weekend.
The only thing I could think about throughout that entire promo is, what if it was April? Would you call it at April?
Well, my middle name's Albert, so I'd call it Albert April.
What about what about June?
I'd be stuck then.
All right. Kennedy's Brainworm says you missed the opportunity for hashtag Matt Mayhem.
That's a hat on a hat.
Good point. Folks, see you in the fun half. 3 months from now, 6 months from now, 9 months from now, and I don't think it's going to be the same as it looks like in 6 months from now, and I don't know if it's necessarily going to be better 6 months from now than it is 3 months from now. But I think around 18 months out, we're going to look back and go like, wow. What? What is that going on? It's nuts. Wait a second. Hold on for a second.
The Majority Report.
Emma, welcome to the program.
Hey.
Matt.